Not the version that shows up to family events and pretends nothing is wrong, but the woman who made choices, deliberate ones, and now has to own them. I imagine sitting across from him, saying the words out loud, and for the first time I don't rehearse them. I don't polish them. I don't try to soften the edges, because any version of the truth that's designed to make this easier for me isn't really the truth at all. I don't know if he'll yell. I don't know if he'll go quiet. I don't know if he'll ask questions I won't survive answering. What I do know is this. Once I speak, the lie stops living between us. For the first time in weeks, I feel something close to control, not over the outcome, but over myself. Over the part of me that keeps choosing the easy escape instead of the painful responsibility. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect understanding. I don't even expect him to stay, but I owe him the dignity of deciding his own future with the full truth in front of him. And if this marriage ends, I want it to end because he knew everything, not because I was too afraid to be honest. I take a breath, and for the first time since this began, I stop thinking about what I'm going to lose, and start thinking about what kind of person I'm willing to be when this is over, not in my 20s. And now suddenly, it feels like my mind is working against me, dragging me toward impulses I don't recognize as my own. I don't want to be this person, and yet pretending she doesn't exist won't make her disappear. What haunts me most is not the fear that he'll leave, though that fear is always there, but the fear that he'll stay, that he'll look at me with disappointment instead of anger, that he'll try to understand when I don't deserve understanding, that he'll carry images and questions that will never fully leave him. Because once I tell him, the burden won't be mine alone anymore. I will be asking him to carry it too. I've given myself a deadline, not because I want to rush him, but because I know myself well enough to know that if I hesitate too long, I'll find excuses to delay. I'll convince myself that silence is mercy. That protecting him means protecting the lie, but that would just be one more selfish choice. And I don't want the last thing I do to him to be another act of cowardice. I don't know if our marriage can survive this. I don't know if forgiveness is even possible. I don't know what kind of woman I'll be on the other side of this confession. All I know is that he deserves the truth, even if the truth costs me everything. And if there's one decent thing I can still do in the middle of this mess, it's to finally stop hiding and let him decide what he wants to do with the woman I actually am. The moment I stop protecting myself, the day I decide to tell him doesn't feel dramatic. There's no music swelling in the background, no sudden clarity, just a heavy, quiet certainty sitting in my chest. I realize I've spent so much time thinking about how this will affect me, my shame, my fear, my self-disgust, that I almost forgot the simplest truth. He deserves to know who he's married to. Not the version of me that smiles through dinner. I replay the same moments over and over again, as if my brain is trying to punish me by refusing to let anything settle. I'll be washing dishes, helping the kids with homework, folding laundry, and suddenly I'm back there, stuck inside my own head, feeling everything at once. Shame, fear, desire, disgust. Sometimes all of it blends together so tightly that I can't tell where one ends and the other begins. I keep asking myself the same question, in 100 different ways. How much of the truth does he deserve? Not because I want to hide anything, I know I can't, but because I don't know if complete honesty will help him heal or destroy something in him that can never be repaired. I imagine sitting across from him, watching his face as I speak. I imagine the exact moment when the woman he thought he knew disappears in front of him. Because once I tell him, I can't control what he'll see when he looks at me. I don't know how to explain that this didn't come from a lack of love. That I still love him deeply, genuinely. That I never stopped appreciating who he is, what he gives, the life we built together. If anything, that's what makes this worse. He didn't deserve this version of me. He didn't deserve the secrecy, the lies, the split reality. And the most terrifying realization is that I don't fully recognize myself either. I've tried to stop. I've tried to pull myself back into control. I've avoided distractions, avoided triggers, avoided being alone with my thoughts too long, because that's when everything floods back. The memories don't come gently. They arrive fully formed, vivid, uninvited, and with them comes the urge to escape again, into fantasy, into sensation, into anything that quiets the noise for a moment. That's when the self-loathing hits hardest. I look at myself and think, what kind of person does this? A wife, a mother, a grown woman who should know better. I've never struggled with anything like this before. Not as a teenager. I told myself it didn't mean anything, that it was just a piece of metal, that I could put it back on later and everything would return to normal. But nothing about that night was accidental. I allowed myself to be seen in a way I hadn't allowed in years. I let someone notice me, want me, approach me. I didn't stop it when I could have. I leaned into it. And when I think about telling my husband all this, I freeze, not because I don't know what to say, but because I don't know how much truth will break him beyond repair. How do you explain intentional betrayal to someone who believes in you? How do you explain that you weren't confused, you were aware, that you weren't missing anything in your marriage, you were chasing something inside yourself? What scares me most isn't his anger, it's his questions. Because once he starts asking why, I'll have to admit that this wasn't about him being unattractive, or inattentive, or cruel. He wasn't. This was about parts of myself I never showed him. Parts I was ashamed of. Parts I didn't think belonged in a life that felt so clean. Our relationship was good, loving, stable. He was kind to me, loyal, present, in all the ways that matter. And somehow, that made it harder. I convinced myself that he was too pure for the mess inside my head, that he wouldn't understand, that sharing those thoughts would ruin the image he had of me, or the image I had of myself. So instead of trusting him with the truth, I split myself in two, the woman he married, and the woman I became when no one was looking. And now those two versions are about to collide. I'm afraid the truth will change the way he sees me forever lately. My thoughts don't move forward. They loop. I'll tell him I'm sorry. That, I mean it. That I didn't do this to hurt him, even though I know that doesn't matter, because I did hurt him. That part, painful as it is, feels almost manageable. What terrifies me is everything that comes after. The questions, the details. Because this didn't start at a bar. The bar was just the last stop on a road I'd been walking down for months. And once he starts asking how I got there, I don't know how I'll look him in the eyes and tell him who I really became behind his back. The bar wasn't the beginning. It was just where I finally stopped pretending. The hardest part to accept is this. What happened at the bar wasn't sudden. It wasn't a moment of madness. It wasn't a single bad decision. It was the result of months of choices I kept making when no one was watching. Long before that night, I had already crossed lines, just quieter ones. Private ones, ones that didn't leave physical evidence but still changed something inside me. I withdrew into myself. I spent more time alone, locked in my own head. I stopped being present in my own home. Small responsibilities felt heavy. Conversations felt like interruptions. I told myself I was just stressed, just tired, just overwhelmed. But the truth was uglier. I was feeding something in secret, an obsession, a constant pull toward fantasy and escape. I built entire inner worlds that had nothing to do with my real life, my real marriage, or the man who trusted me completely. By the time I walked into that bar, I already knew what I wanted to happen. That's the part that makes my stomach turn. I didn't go out hoping nothing would happen. I went out hoping something would. I remember the moment I took off my wedding ring. It wasn't dramatic. No shaking hands. No hesitation. Just a calm, deliberate choice, as if I had already rehearsed it. I know I'm going to confess. I just don't know how much truth will destroy him. I already know how this ends. Not because I've told him yet, but because I know myself. I'm a terrible liar. Always have been. My face betrays me before my mouth ever does. I can't hold eye contact. My body stiffens, my voice changes. Anyone who knows me well can tell when something is wrong. And my husband knows me better than anyone. He's already noticed. The way I look away when he asks simple questions. The distance I've put between us on the couch, the awkward pauses, the way my hands don't quite know where to rest anymore. A few times, the guilt surged so suddenly and so violently that I almost told him everything right there in the kitchen. I had to physically stop myself from speaking, bite my tongue, breathe through it, but I can't keep this inside forever. I know that with absolute certainty. If I don't tell him, he'll figure it out, or someone else will, or his suspicion will grow until the details don't even matter anymore. Either way, it will end the same. I've reached this strange moment of clarity where I understand something about myself that I can't unlearn. I am incapable of taking this to my grave. I'm too emotionally close to him, too self-aware, too honest when it hurts the most. Maybe not today, maybe not this month, but eventually the guilt will win. A year from now, 2 years from now, I will break. And I would rather break now than let this rot quietly inside me. I've already rehearsed the beginning in my head. I know exactly how I'll start. I'll tell him that last weekend, I lied. That I said I was staying at a friend's place after her birthday, but instead, I stayed at the bar. That I drank too much. That I let a man take me home. I won't hide behind alcohol. I know it's not an excuse. I made choices. Every step of the way, I chose this.